My name is Kathy Green Petrulli. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Izmir, Turkey from 1966 to 1968. I was stationed there in a child care project in Izmir Children's Hospital. I have a lot of fond memories of Turkey and my time there, particularly the children. And I remember one little girl named Zara who was about 7. And I was told by the staff that she had an elderly grandmother who could no longer take care of her and brought her to the hospital. She also had extensive orthopedic surgery that needed to be done, but the grandmother was not able to return to take her home. So she essentially lived in the hospital. That became her home, and her staff were like her second family. And of course, she was very dear to me. And by virtue of being in the hospital, she did not get out very much, let alone leave the hospital grounds. At one point, the American military wives and I were able to work with the U.S. military because it was the site for the 6th Fleet to come in for leave, and so we were able to arrange to have all the children in the orthopedic clinic transported to an aircraft carrier. And so I took little Zara with me. She clung to me the whole time. Her eyes were as big as saucers because she could not believe it, especially standing on the flight deck of this aircraft carrier. It was a wonderful day. The kids were treated royally. They had a very, very special time. And I think that, in the years that have intervened, I often think of her and wonder where her life has taken her. Because truly, she was one of the great memories I have and one of the great joys that I had being in Turkey. I have not been back to Turkey since my Peace Corps days, and yes, I have thought of her, and it's a little stymied as to how to begin to find her. I do have a picture of her, but of course she was very little. So yes, I would like to, but I think it would be quite a hunt to find her. One of the duties that I had when I was there was to create a playroom for the kids in the orthopedic clinic, and we titled it "Child's Job is to Play." And the kids really loved that time, because of course it took away a lot of the intensity of being in a hospital setting, and just giving them an opportunity to play and to read books. And I worked with a local girls' school, and they would come to do charitable work. Part of their curriculum was to volunteer and do charitable work, and they would come every other week to work with me and the children. And that was very rewarding because they enjoyed being able to learn a little bit about America, and of course I was always wanting to learn more about Turkey, so that was a great part of the experience for me. One other interesting thing I think that made my beginning in Turkey a little bit more daunting maybe than some of the other volunteers is that halfway through my training, the Peace Corps realized that I had one semester before I got my degree. So rather than go on to Turkey with the rest of my group, I had to go back to school to get my degree. So I had to actually hire a native speaker at the University of California who worked with me to try to keep my language training up. And once I finished that, then I went over, but I essentially went over by myself. So it was very, very different experience. And I remember those early days, in a hotel before they gave me an assignment, peeking out the window, afraid to go down and try to order a meal because I was afraid my Turkish was going to fail me. And so I would, drink tap water and eat certs. Of course, I immediately got sick, but eventually everything worked out. But it took a while for me to get an assignment, but then that finally came through. So.
Well, yeah, I can imagine going by yourself versus in a group. It's a whole different experience.
Yes, it is. And I remember Peace Corps always telling me never to part with my passport, which of course seemed to happen every time I turned around. Somebody was needing my passport. So anyway, I figured I'll be stranded here forever. But no, it worked out well. But it was hard in the beginning because of that. You know.
About how long did you have to wait before
got an assignment?
For you? Yeah.
It was about a month and a half before the assignment came up, and I loved Izmir. I think Izmir is such a beautiful place in Turkey, and you know, was very lucky, I think, to have had that as and certainly the hospital was a great place. The staff were very welcoming, and very pleased that I was there. So.
Now, whereabouts is Izmir, say, regards to Istanbul or whatever?
It's south. It's on the Mediterranean. It's just almost due south of. I mean, it's on the coast, so it's going to be. Yeah, it's on the coast.
So it sounds like it could be a beautiful setting.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful. Absolutely, yeah, really gorgeous. So, I hope to get back one day.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Jackie Day. I served in Turkey in 1966 to 68 in a little town called Osmanli. You might know the closest town that's of any size is Bilecik. Yes. Oh, I like the idea of a bus because we were, of course, highly cautioned to not ride in the front seat of the bus because it was dangerous. And of course, that was the honor seat. And the villagers wanted to give you the seat of honor. So of course, you had to sit up front, and that could be pretty scary. And my most scary experience was actually traveling through Afghanistan. When I was on break and I was traveling through Afghanistan, and they would play this game where everybody turned off their lights as they're approaching each other and play this chicken game as they scooted past each other. And yeah, that was interesting. I also did a little bit of hitchhiking in Iran. But Turkey is a land of the most fabulous food in the world and the most hospitable, warm, and loving people I've ever known. And I've traveled to quite a few different countries, but I really, really, really love Turkey.
Okay, well, thank you.
Dale Haltengren. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Adana, Turkey from 1967 to 1969. I was an English teacher at Beşiktaş Ortaokul, which is Beşiktaş Middle School. This is it was an experience that has affected my whole life. Most currently are hosting two of the grandchildren of my Turkish roommate when I was a volunteer. Our family hosted 6 high school exchange students, which I don't believe we would have done without our experience. And our own sons went on high school exchanges. It's really broadened my view of the world, and I'm grateful for having had that opportunity. When I first went to Adana, it was my habit, not being a particularly good cook, to go out to a local restaurant, a simple restaurant I would add, to have dinner each evening, and I would read a book while I was there at the restaurant. And one evening a Turkish gentleman came over and introduced himself, and he was an English teacher at a nearby school, not my own, but quite nearby. And we became friends, and I learned that he was living by himself. And I was living in a compound that included 2 units. It was pretty good size, since there had been a lot of volunteers in Adana the previous year, even though I was the only one when I first arrived. And so I suggested that he move over to my place, which was much larger than his, and for 45 years we've been friends. I went back to Turkey first in 1972, and then not again until 1993, at which time I spent some time with him. And fortunately, I've been able to stay in touch, and I travel regularly to Turkey now, and staying with him and his now grown-up daughters. And in 2006, he and his oldest grandchild visited us for the summer. 2 years ago, one of the girls who's here now came. Last year, Mom came, And this year we've got the second grandchild and her cousin here. So it's beyond any kind of value that I could begin to count. It's a friendship of a lifetime. They're a family.
Amazing. How did you keep it up in the sense of exchanging letters early on and then emails, or how did you get connection? When I went in 1972, when I went back, it was quite easy because he was living in the same place, and I had a friend, an American friend who was still there who knew him, so contact was easy. In 1993, I sent a letter addressed simply to the principal of Istiklal Ortaokulu, independent middle school, Adana, Turkey. I had no street address, nothing. And I asked the principal to contact my friend. So several months later, we arrived in Turkey, and it was right before a huge holiday. And in fact, it was the last day, and otherwise school would have been closed. And I walked over to the school, it was quite near our hotel, and introduced myself and said I was the fellow who sent him the letter, and asked if he had found my friend. And there was this kind of embarrassed silence, and no, he hadn't done anything. But he got to it real quick, and we found my friend, and technology is much improved now, and we've been able to stay in touch regularly since then.